third year, we enrolled in a course that was called entrepreneurship, and we didn't have a final exam, but we had to create a project and put it live, let's say. So we created what we call debate group. This is my dream job, but can I make it just part-time? Because I want to spend the other half of my day in this idea that I have. So he told me like, no, you can't do that. I mean, this is a full-time job. So I say, okay, well, then I won't take it. We were having these three things happening at the same time, like the clients that they were thinking that we already had a product, the developers that thought that we had money to pay for the MVP, and the investors that were thinking that we already had all the clients in order to scale the business.
Welcome to Seedstars podcast. Seedstars is an organization that aims to have an impact in emerging markets by supporting the local entrepreneurs, investing in their ventures, but also sharing their story globally because we really believe they are the true heroes. We'll be listening to them and other thought leaders and disruptors that are really shaping the future of tomorrow. And we hope that together we can build a sustainable impact.
So welcome everyone to this podcast episode at Seedstars. We are here today with Federico Hernandez, the CFO and co-founder of Blended, an edtech platform in Argentina, which has now 500,000 users, and who also was the global winner at Seedstars last year. I'm very, very excited for this conversation that is happening now with Federico.
Hey, Adriana, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Fine. Things are going great here in Argentina.
Okay, good. So maybe we start off at what is happening right now. So where does what's the situation of Blended right now? What about fundraising? What about customers? How many schools are you working with right now?
Perfect. So after our last financing round, that was about 13 months ago, we first focused on trying to build a really strong team of outliers. And that was what we spent most of our time during the first 6 months after our funding round. And nowadays, what we are doing basically is scaling our business in the region, in the whole Latin America. We are boosting right now over 500 schools. That means like 500,000 users. And in terms of technology, what we are doing is not only providing schools different solutions from our company, but also opening to everyone that's aiming to achieve or to give their solution to schools in order to become like the main school hub. So that's what we're doing right now.
Wonderful. So I want to dig into the different things that you just mentioned. So the first thing that you brought up was that you focused on building a strong team. And something that we at Seedstars often hear when it comes to hiring is that it's hard to get high quality people with more experience. And many entrepreneurs and many founders wonder how they can attract high quality talent. So how did you do that at Blended?
Well, of course, after fundraising, it's a little bit easier. But I think that the thing here is how you can bring into your team different high quality people. Besides the money, you need to focus on bringing into the ship people that are committed with your same, let's say, vision and your same mission in order to the company. So that was what we tried to do at first, like try to tell everyone what we were doing, what we are looking forward in education for the next year, the next 5 years, the next 10 years, and try to hire the people that were 100% aligned with this strategy and with our vision. And I think that's really important because at the end, it will help both sides. The employee will join a company that thinks the same way they think. And for the company, it's better because you're already creating a culture. That's what at the end will define if your company will grow or not.
How big is your team right now?
So now we are 35 people working in Blended.
Wow. And all of them sit in Argentina, or where are they based?
No, basically, on the last months, we opened operations in Peru. So we are now having a small team there. And here in Argentina, of course, we have our headquarters, and almost all of our team is based in Buenos Aires. But yeah, we have people in Buenos Aires, and we have some people working remote, and some people of our local office at Lima.
Mm-hmm. And so you were just talking about expanding on the whole continent. So where are you operating right now?
So today we have clients in Argentina, of course. We also have clients in Uruguay, in Paraguay, Peru, and Colombia. Since we are like selling our product remotely, and the first part is quite self-service, so we're being able to deliver the product to the whole region. And of course, the next stage is Mexico. So that's what we are doing right now, like expanding in the different countries from Argentina and with an office in Peru, and then we aim to keep growing in new countries.
Mm-hmm. And what is the biggest challenge when setting up shop in a new country?
Well, I think that whenever you like or any entrepreneur is thinking of scaling the business outside their countries, I mean, we have an advantage in the emerging markets and in Argentina itself, because our like internal market is small. We are only 40 million people. Whenever we start a company, we are already thinking in how to internationalize our company. But when we actually did that on the last year, we understood that there are three things what we need to do. Is the first one is hire well, because it's really different when you have your team sitting right next to each other, everyone sitting right next to each other, and then suddenly you have people working in Lima with a different culture, with different teams, with different challenges. So the first thing is try to hire someone that is 100% aligned with your culture and your vision. And that will help you do things a lot. Briefly, the next two things would be like the product market fit. You need to have a product market fit for every single country you open, because there are different type of consumers, different type of cultures. And the third one would be, of course, regulations, because every country has different regulations in education, in order how to bill the customers, how to collect the money from the customers. So there are a lot of challenges from that side too.
Mm-hmm. And in the hiring process, how do you make sure that someone really fits your culture? Because I see a lot of startups having issues with that. So first of all, I guess you need to define your own culture, and then to find out how can you test that and boil that down in the interview. So how do you do that at Blended?
Yeah, perfect. So the first thing we understood was that the culture is already there. Even though you focus or not on it, there's a culture in your company. It doesn't matter if you're 1, 2, or 25 people working there. If you made a beautiful presentation with values, the culture is out there. The question is if you are in control of that culture or not. And that's the first challenge we understood, and we focused first on creating and defining and understanding what was happening in our local office in Argentina. And once we had all that settled, we tried to go to our networks and find people that know the company, let's say investors, advisors, people that we met in different events that know about the company's vision. And we went there and tell them, hey, you know the company almost as much as the founder, so you need to help us with your network down in Peru, in this case, Colombia, Mexico, or wherever you're going. So we try to rely on those people that they are local, but they already know the company. And then, of course, we have a strong hiring process where we try to have a bunch of different interviews, not only with the founders, but also with different teammates, maybe that they're going to be working together because they're from the growth team, but also from the tech side and the customer. So we try to have like a really good hiring process, because it might take a little bit more. I know that in the startup world, it's better fast than perfect. But when it comes to hiring, I believe that it's better to take it seriously, and founders at least also take focus on this, and get the people that you need on your team, not anyone else.
Yeah, at Seedstars, we also always really focus on our hiring process, and we made the experience that if, as you said, if we try to hire someone really fast and we make the mistake to ignore the process, that it turns out that we sometimes make a bad pick. So it really is also essential at Seedstars to really focus on this process. So I'm wondering, how did you find a process that works for you, and how did you find the different mechanisms that you need in a process in order to make sure you hire someone that really fits and makes a good fit at Blended?
Well, the first thing is to be honest. I mean, I'm 27 years old. My co-founder is 27 years old also. We made a project before Blended. It was a small project, so this is like our first big experience in having a company. So the first thing is saying, hey, I don't know how to do this, and rely on our investors, rely on other entrepreneurs. When you start asking questions, you will find out that people are willing to help you. So the first thing was that, just ask different startups from Argentina or from the region that we like, and tell, hey, I love the culture you have. How do you achieve that? And those are like, hey, we focus on hiring, we do this different process. And taking this bunch of ideas, we end up building our own hiring process and our own culture rituals, but just by asking and relying on different cultures that we like.
And what are the key steps that you identified?
Well, I think that the first thing is that inside your culture, before hiring, you need to create what I like to call like connecting queues among each other. Not only having talks about the clients, about the product, about your company, but also create connection among everyone in the team. Like, hey, I like this person. I understand why he's doing that. I understand his point of view, his way of thinking. I understand his background. And when you create all these kind of connections between the team, probably the team, when hard times arrive to the company, they will collaborate and be connected to each other in a really strong way. So the first thing we decided was to see how all these connecting queues were happening inside the company, and just promote the things that we were completely aligned, and just tell everyone and say, hey, this is not acceptable, or this is not what we are looking for in the company. We like to say in Blended that we are good people, and or at least we like to have good people and outliers inside the team, and in that order. So you first gotta be a good person, and of course you gotta be an outlier. So we like that phrase, like good people and outliers in that order.
And going back to the 3 points that you mentioned that are important when expanding into a new country. The second one was product market fit. So nowadays that you are already established in a few countries and you're doing very well, obviously, how do you make sure that you have product market fit when you expand into a new region or into a new country?
Well, this certainly is a hard thing to do, because people, when you were, let's say, when you had good results in the first time you did it in Argentina, it's like, hey, I know how these things go. The communication platform should go like this. These other products should go like this other thing. But when we hire our country manager in Peru, we told him like, hey, the first thing you need to do is go and visit 100, 200 clients, have calls with them, understand what they are loving of our product, what things they don't like, what things they don't understand. you have like certain small things like wording. Even though we all speak Spanish, we have different kind of words for every country. And then you have bigger issues like, hey, we don't understand why calendar should be like this. We have calendar with this other thing, let's say. So we focus a lot of time with clients. When we raise our last funding round, we decided to hire PMs in order to have someone focus 100% of the time in the product and the client's experience, and not just build technology and send it out there, but have really clients focus group and teachers, students, headmasters, everyone trying the product before we put it out there.
Looking at the product and how you've grown, let's go back to the very start. So you started Blended in 2015. How did you actually come about the idea, and how did you and your co-founder get started with Blended?
Well, we went to the same university here in Argentina, and when we were in our third year, we enrolled in a course that was called entrepreneurship, and we didn't have a final exam, but we had to create a project and put it live, let's say. So we created what we call Debate Group. That was basically an NGO that promotes freedom of speech among different high school students. So that was the way we introduced ourselves in education sector, let's say. And once we started working with schools, we realized that we were having these huge events, really good events, and there were like only 2 or 3 parents showing up. Mm-hmm. So we started talking with the headmasters saying, hey, what's happening here? And I said, like, parents, we don't have good connection with parents. We send out paperwork, we send emails, and we never have an answer. We realized this problem, that they were having like a disconnection between schools and families. And we start to see how other countries were trying to solve these problems. And we end up realizing that there are a lot of papers and work done that if you connect the families with the schools, at the end, you will have a positive impact at the students' journey. So that was what we tried to solve. In Latin America nowadays, 1 out of 2 students drop out of school. And we believe that if we can bring together schools with families, we will end up helping or contribute a little bit in solving this problem. And that's why we decided to start this communication platform that now it became like a huge hub for the school with grading, attendance, gaming, or a bunch of different solutions. But everything started as a simple communication platform from day one.
And how aware were, like, now in hindsight, it seems very obvious, right? But if you paint the picture of how these conversations went, and also you and your co-founder, how did the decision come about that you actually do this, which is now Blended?
Well, to be honest, I think it was a little bit of instinct and self-confidence, because when we finished university, I went to a private school here in Argentina and then a private university. So I needed money after all that education. My co-founder get into a company, and I was going to my final interview at KPMG. And I actually get the job for corporate finance that me as an economics student, I thought that was like my dream job. And I remember going to that final interview. They told me, hey, you got the job. And I asked who was going to be actually my boss. It's like, hey, this is my dream job, but can I make it just part-time? Because I want to spend the other half of my day in this idea that I have. So he told me, like, no, you can't do that. I mean, this is a full-time job. So I say, okay, well, then I won't take it. And I went back home where all my family was waiting, like, hey, you get your first job. I was like, no, I decided not to take it. And I called
How
my
did they
co-founder.
react?
Well, at first it was like, are you crazy? I mean, you always talk about getting into the corporate finance and now you get the job. And then I said, no, but I have this idea that we've been thinking with Nico, and I think we got to give it a chance. And my family told me, okay, if that's what you believe, we trust you, go for it. And I called Nico and
Wow.
said, hey, you need to quit your job. I mean, I just said no to KPMG, so you need to quit. And the next week he quit his job, and we started building Blended. So I think it was a little bit of luck that brings us out here, but that was good.
Is that something you talked about before, or something that you thought about before, that you would only take the job at KPMG if there was a part-time opportunity? Or was this a spark of the moment decision that when you were in the interview, you said, oh no, I actually feel more like building my own thing?
Yeah, I think it was instinct, and every decision I took there was on the spot. I mean, I haven't thought about it. I went there and said, hey, you get the job. This is a full-time job. I was like, no, I still believe that Blended needs to go out there. Like, clients need this, schools need the communication platform. Let's build it. So everything was decided there on the table with the KPMG people there.
And at this point in time, how much of Blended did already exist?
Well, we had spent some time with my co-founder Nicolas, thinking about the idea and trying to make our research in how the US was solving this problem, how this problem was being solved in Europe, but not much of the. I mean, we had the idea, we understood a little bit how was the things going on the developed countries, we understood the problem in Latin America, but not much really.
Okay. But the solution was not yet developed.
We knew that we want to make a communication platform, but we haven't decided yet if we wanted to go therefore with, like, let's say, communication platform, communication rating and attendance, communication and gaming. So we knew that we had to solve communication, and thank God we end up deciding to only build one thing at the first time, and then expand the product when the clients start to show up.
Yeah. And talking about building, so you studied economics and finance. Yep. Nicolas as well?
Yeah, he also studied business. So we are both founders. We are business, let's say. So we don't have any co-founder from the tech side. And that was a tough thing at the beginning.
So how did you manage that at the beginning? So let's again go into that situation. So you told KPMG, no, I'm going to do my own thing. Nicolas quit his job as well. What happened next? How did you actually go from back then unemployed graduates?
Yeah, so we started to
founders?
Yeah, so what we did was, like, we got to get together every single day from, let's say, 12 hours. That, to be honest, now we spend 5 hours playing our PlayStation, and then the other 7 hours figuring out what to do with Blended. But what I remember doing was, like, we compiled 30 different emails from headmasters, from friends and family that, hey, what was your school? Can you give me the name and the email of your headmaster? So we got all these 30 emails together, and we sent out our first email marketing or something like that. And I remember having our first response in the first 30 seconds. And that was when we look to each other and say, hey, we have the next Facebook. Among our, we are going to be the next Facebook. And unfortunately, that was the only answer we get. But yeah, we went to that first school and had the meeting with the headmaster. And I remember he asked a bunch of questions that we didn't have an answer, like, hey, I love the idea, I love the product, I like what you want to build, guys. how are we gonna introduce our 3,000 students into your platform? And we didn't have an answer for that. So it was key for us to start going out there and meet potential clients. And once we realized that we actually had 3 or 4 schools willing to use our product,
How did you get these schools? So you said you received one answer from these 30 emails. How did you get the other schools? How did you get your foot in the door?
Well, what we did is this email thing happened, let's say, like 2 or 3 weeks after Nicolas quitting his job and myself saying no to KPMG. So what we did those 2 or 3 first weeks was to create let's say, the templates of what we were thinking about the product, our communication platform. So we built a video with the clicker, like the first screen, then the clicker over the bottom, then we show the next screen. And when you play that video, it actually seems like it was having the backend technology there, but it was not. It was just a simple video. So we went out and sent this video. Hey, this new communication platform arrived to Argentina. Start using it, and we get some leads there, and we start meeting all these potential clients. And at the end of 2015, we got our first 3 or 4 clients that was like, hey, okay, we want to start the next year using your platform. And during all those months, we start building our MVP. That was the product that we start, or that these 3 or 4 clients were using. So that was a little bit of the story.
So you used the same strategy as Dropbox, like faking your product in a video and generating leads out of that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that it was quite risky because we were like having 3 different things happening at the same time. This is something that everyone needs to understand. It's not that you first do one thing, then the next one. When you are on the first days of your company, a lot of things are happening together. So basically, we were selling the product to these clients with a beautiful video. At the same time, we were having 2 developers that were working on our MVP that we had paid half of the MVP, let's say, upfront, and then the rest was going to be paid when they finish it. And at the same time, we were talking with investors in order to raise our seed round. So we were having these 3 things happening at the same time, like the clients that they were thinking that we already had a product, the developers that thought that we had money to pay for the MVP, and the investors that were thinking that we already had all the clients in order to scale the business. And thank God that everything came and reached to a really good port. Like, we get the money, we could finish the product, and we could deliver the product to the clients. So it was a little bit crazy days.
And how did you know which steps to take? Like, how did you know what are the factors you really have to look after? Was that what you learned at that course at university, the last one you took where you built the other project, or you read Lean Startup, or what was, where did your playbook come from?
Well, we read a lot. We love reading about tech companies, how they raise money, how they started. So we use different strategy, as you were saying, of Dropbox and getting a video. Of course, that when I see today our deck, our presentation for the seed round, I was like, I'm embarrassed. I mean, I can't believe that we get clients with this product. I can't believe that we get investors with this PowerPoint. But you need to go out there and start doing things. You need to move fast. And of course, we iterate a lot during that process that we were talking and discussing, because we went out with a presentation. We realized that we were not having answers from our clients or from our potential clients. So we made some changes. We sent out a new email. The same thing happening with investors. We send out some metrics. No one answered back. We send out a new one-pager. So you start iterating and improving your material. Of course, now that we are a more mature company, you have a different process. You have investors, you have a board, you have a lot of different things in order to do the things correctly. But in those days, we were two young entrepreneurs trying to get our three or four customers. So reading and iterating constantly.
Yeah. If you imagine you could now talk to your 2015 self, what is one thing you would like him to know?
Well, the first thing is don't waste your time thinking if this feature is worth it or not. Just pick one simple feature that's going to be the killer feature from your point of view, and just develop that thing. We spend a lot of time thinking if we should add grading, attendance, different things that at the end nobody was going to use. So just focus on one feature that is solving the main problem that you want to tackle, and just develop that and go fast to the market. Just meet there with clients the first day that you're having the idea. Hey, I have this idea, what do you think? I mean, you're a headmaster, can you give me feedback? That's when we think that the company really started, when we left our department and start meeting with schools.
So this typical lean startup approach, building a very rough MVP, going out, getting feedback on it, and then iterating.
Yeah, definitely.
So now looking at you two faking it till you're making it, basically, where did you get that confidence from? So you said, you had these external programmers that helped you develop the product. You kind of faked that you had money. And at the same time, you talked to investors. You kind of faked there that you had customers, I guess. Then you talked to customers. You faked again to them that you had a product. So how did you sleep at night? How?
Well, I mean, we didn't fake it 100%. They knew that we were starting. They knew that we were not like a big US company. I think that at the end, what happened is that they trust our vision. I think that we also spend a lot of time at the beginning trying to convince people to use our product. And now we understand that you first need to get the 3 or 4 clients that believe in the same things you believe. In our case, headmasters or school owners that believe that something had to change in the communication with parents and with the families, and they need to get some kind of innovation there. When we get those people, when we get to talk with those people, the confidence was really good, because they were trying to do the same thing that us, but they didn't have the time because they were managing the school. So at the end, they didn't matter that much if the product was all the things that we were telling them, but they knew that what we were proposing was the future for their school. And the same thing happens with the developers and with the investors. I mean, they knew that we were two young entrepreneurs, and that when you read about startups, of course, there are a lot of people saying different things about your own company, but at the end, they trusted that our vision of transforming education through a communication platform was the path that we should take. So I think that the investors trusted in the idea, and they of course trusted in the team, in Nicolas and in myself as entrepreneurs, and the developers also. I mean, they end up joining the team when we actually raise the money. We pay for our MVP and tell them, hey guys, this product, you were here from the first day, why don't you join the team? And now we are 4 on this boat. So I think that the trust was built on the mission and the vision we had of our company.
Mm-hmm. And you said the first turning point was when one headmaster replied to your email within 30 seconds.
Yeah.
What was the second turning point when you felt like, okay, this will really take off?
Well, of course, that when we raised our seed round, we now had some money in order to hire people, in order to have an office and get everyone together and start creating this culture. So when we convinced our first investors, we understood that, hey, there might be a chance here. There might be an opportunity big enough. So we realized that schools were trusting our vision, investors were trusting our vision, and that's when we say, yeah, this is gonna be big enough.
At the point when you raised your first round, did you already have clients, paying clients?
No, we have these 3 or 4 customers that they were saying, hey, we want to start using your product, but everything happened at the same time. I mean, we tell investors like, hey, we only have these 3 clients that are willing to start paying our product, but that's it. So only 3 or 4 schools willing to use the product. I mean, we had the contract, but they haven't started paying yet.
I'm sure many of the people listening to this podcast will also be young entrepreneurs that, similar to you at that point, are not serial entrepreneurs with tons of experience or with a huge track record. They're also looking for investors with only a small amount of revenue, if even any. So what do you think was the key for you to convince investors to invest at this point in time, to really believe in you and your mission?
Yeah, I think that what every entrepreneur needs to understand at this point from the seed round, even if you go for a breed round or a Series A, is that your company is still small in the vision of those investors. So you need to understand that they are investing in you. I mean, they trust the vision, they trust the product you are wanting to create. But the most important thing is that they are trying and they believe in the founders and the team. So focus on showing the investors why you are going to be the guys that, in our case, we're going to create the communication platform in Latin America. I mean, there are probably different entrepreneurs trying to do the same thing. I think that the difference between each of their teams is like trying to convince investors that you are the correct person to build it.
And one thing I'm also very interested in, because I see a lot of founders with business background not having a technical co-founder. And you and Nicolas also decided not to get a technical co-founder on board later on. How did you come to this decision? And do you feel like you have a lot of backlash because of that when you go out fundraising?
Well, I mean, that decision happened like the KPMG thing. We didn't discuss this a lot. We were 2 young friends, entrepreneurs trying to start something. We didn't think that, hey, we need to get a tech co-founder, really. Once we started the company, we realized that was really key to have someone good from the tech side, because at the end, you're a tech company. So I think that those first days were hard because we came from a business school, that there were not like computer science. So it was tough to get these 2 developers to get our MVP product because we didn't know no one in our network actually was working at a tech company at that point. So yeah, if I had to start a company again, maybe I would get some tech founder also.
How did you find these 2 developers then back then?
A friend of a friend, something like that.
Okay. The typical story, I understand. So also looking back now, I mean, you now have a lot of experience having started this in 2015, having raised a big amount, having clients, having operations in different countries all over the region. Lastly, also becoming the Seedstars Global winner. What were some hardships that you had to endure during the last 5 years?
Well, we had a few. I remember one when we were on our second year. Yeah, we were running out of cash flow, so we couldn't pay salaries for like 2 months, and that was a really hard situation. Because at the beginning we didn't have specific roles, like we were everyone doing a lot of things, everyone doing I was on product, then I was working on the financial part. One day I was selling, so it was a big mess all that first days.
How many
that was
people
really,
were you back then?
10 people were working in the company by then, so it was really hard. And that's when I say that it's really important to have a team that is committed with you, committed with the idea, committed with the company, with your vision, because we had no problem with no one. We had no problem. I mean, the important thing here is like have a really good communication. Hey, we are facing this problem as a company. Maybe we didn't do it that well. If I would need, if I had to give an advice, is like when you come to bad situations or difficult situations in your company, it's really important to communicate really well what is happening. So that was a really hard thing. And then, of course, we had another problem when we were raising our last funding round. In emerging markets, you have a bunch of problems besides selling and product. Argentina, we closed our valuation, and between our term sheet, let's say, and the final documents, Argentina had a devaluation from its currency of 100%. And at that point, we were having 98% of our clients in Argentina. So basically, the valuation dropped by 50%. So, it was hard. At the end, we could stand for the original valuation, talking with investors at the end, they end up being the investors of our series, to make them understand that was something that we will recover in the midterm, that we were focusing on a long-term company, not on the 6 months Argentina's problem. But as an entrepreneur in the emerging markets, you need to be aware of a lot of different situations that maybe developed markets don't have. So that was another difficult thing. We thought we had everything close, and then we came back to the table and discussed about evaluation. So that was the two main problems, I think. The cash flow problem at the beginning, when we couldn't pay salaries for 2 months, and then the emerging markets macro situation and Argentina's evaluation.
Yeah. And how did you learn to do this kind of negotiation? How did you learn how to come up with these arguments and how to follow up with the investors to nail down this valuation?
Well, I think the two important things there. The first one is we rely a lot on our seed investors. So they help us to stand for these arguments and to sustain our original evaluation. And that's one part. And the other part is that the investors that were going to invest at Blended, they were committed with our vision also, and they were big fans from Silicon Valley. They understood how the VC industry works in the long term. So they understood the situation. They understood that we were here for transforming education in the long term, not only the 6 months problem. And at the end, they trusted the team. They trusted the investors that were already on board. They trusted the founders and everyone in the company. So that was the way we manage. Having good investor from the seed round, and also that the term sheet were signed with investors that were playing the long run.
Going back to the first point that you raised, when you had cash flow issues, I'm also very positively overwhelmed that no one left at that point in time, because obviously it's not only believing in the mission, but also employees having their own bills to pay, basically. And so I wonder, how did you communicate with them? Because at this point in time, did you have cash flow coming in that you were 100% certain about, or could you make any promises to them?
We should have communicated even better than what we did, but at that point we were having cash flow. We were having revenues already. So what we did was a plan, let's say, of, hey, I cannot pay 100% of your salary today, but you're going to have 15% next week, 15% next week, 15, and we schedule like a payment schedule. And that's what they told us. I remember some of the employees even telling me, hey, Fede, don't focus on that. You can pay me when we finish all this financial crisis. Let's focus on getting more clients so that we can go through this storm quickly. So
Wow.
that was crazy. And I think that shows the commitment from everyone in the team. And that's one of the things that, to me, at least as a founder, makes me more proud.
Wow, you really got the right people there.
Definitely.
And so, as I already mentioned a bit before, you were the global winner at Seedstars. How did that change things? Did that help to boost your business? Help you in fundraising and selling? How did that impact Blended?
Became the global winners. We haven't expanded our business yet to other countries. So all the Seedstars experience helped us a lot in opening our minds in terms of getting to know different cultures, getting to know different founders and entrepreneurs from Latin America, to expand our network. I mean, I remember when we were trying to hire our team in Peru, or now that we are thinking about it in Colombia, we rely on a lot of people that we met in the different Seedstars events. And of course, a lot of different advice that we receive from investor mentors and people that Seedstars provide to their entrepreneurs. So I think that was a transforming situation that helped us scale our business outside Argentina and to expand our network with people that are all outstanding.
That's great to hear. Are you still in touch with anyone that you met through Seedstars? For example, last year at the Global Summit?
Yeah, definitely. We even have a WhatsApp group. So with all the Latin America's founders and entrepreneurs. So whenever, for example, we have any problem, hey, this is happening in the region. Hey, you know someone in Argentina that has this. Hey, I'm expanding to Peru. Any advice? And the Peru founders, hey, Fede, let's meet when you are here in Lima. So yeah, we keep in touch with each other.
Shifting scenes completely. I was very, very excited when I heard that I will get the opportunity to talk to you, because I'm really interested about the role you are already playing and plan to play in schools in the context of this whole Corona crisis. Because obviously in Austria already all schools are closed down, and this will for sure be happening all over the world where it's not the case already. So how are you preparing for the situation? Where do you see Blended in that? How you guys can support schools in that special situation?
Well, here in Argentina, in almost all of the countries in Latin America, schools are also shut down. So every school is making homeschooling, let's say. So it was crazy first when local governments announced that schools were shutting down. The traffic in our site increased by 30 times what we have commonly. So it was crazy, the demand we started to have from our already clients, let's say. And at the same time, we had a bunch of new leads that they wanted to start using our product. So at that point, what we decided was first to give the communication platform for free. We understand that if we really aim to change the education in a region that is badly needing it, we need to think first on schools and in teachers and the students. So we decided to give the communication platform for free for all the period that the COVID-19 lasts. So that's what we are doing today. We have all the company working day and night because, of course, this means an unprecedented demand for our product. So we understood that we had to give them support from a financial perspective, because now that we are doing well and that we have funding, we need to support the school that they can't afford for digital products, and they need the digital products to survive this period, let's say. And also from a like content perspective, like all the teachers that were always face-to-face education, they're used to it. Now we need to, let's say, have all our team focus on helping them. So we're giving support 24/7. Hey, I don't know how to use this, don't worry, I'll help you, because it's a crazy situation for everyone, for the company, for the schools, for the teachers. We need to understand that they are the heroes at the end. I mean, the teachers that are all the day in the classroom with the students. So we understood that this time, even though it's a great opportunity to us to grow, we need to focus on helping the schools, and then that's all that matters today.
And now, in the middle of all of this, how many users do you have now?
500,000 users daily.
Wow.
That's more on the numbers. So it's crazy. It's a lot of traffic.
What happened when your traffic shut up like that? Did your servers shut down, or you were prepared for it?
Yeah, thank God. We raised around like 13 months before. So we already built a great team that they were working on the platform for the last 8 months. Probably if this crisis would have shown up on, let's say, 12 months before, that would be a big problem to us. But thank God now we have a really good team, a really strong platform, and we are able to deliver the product to all of these users in the way they are expecting.
So I really appreciate that you take the time in the middle of all of this to talk to me and record this conversation. But I really want to be respectful of your time, and I know that you have things to look after. So as I said, we have a quick fire round prepared, but maybe before we start into this, is there anything else that you want people to know that are thinking of starting their own businesses, or are at the very start of doing that, working on their ideas and their first MVP?
Well, as I was saying, I think the important thing is to go out there and try to meet all the potential clients or final users you can, get feedback from them, and don't think that because you get the idea, you have the correct answer. Just you get the idea and that's it. Now you have the other 95% that is actually taking that into reality, and you need to go out there and build the product together with your final users, so that when you actually launch it, you will have a lot of engagement.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. So let's start to our quick fire round. The first question I have for you is, what impact do you intend to have?
Well, despite the 500,000 users we have nowadays, I think that the interesting thing is that we are pushing the industry forward in order to push all the educational boundaries. So that's something really interesting, how we are making an impact in the industry, not only into our final users.
How do you want the educational sector to change because of blended? Where do you see your impact in 5 or 10 years? How will students learn differently, or how will students, schools, and parents communicate differently?
I don't know how it will end up from a product perspective, but what I want to think about is, today, 1 out of 2 students drop out of school. We aim to help and to solve this problem. We need to have every single student in Latin America finishing their school. So blended and a bunch of other solutions that now are thinking in edtech, we need to commit ourselves to solve this problem. And when I see education 10 years from now, probably this number will be slower. I will be lower. That's my big concern today.
And the second question in the quickfire round would be, how many jobs did you create, or how many jobs did you help to create?
50 and growing.
And people love working at Blended so much that they don't even require a salary. What is your favorite book or podcast or documentary or some of this media that you can really recommend?
So I think there's a good book for each stage of your company. One I like today is Blitzscaling from Ruth Kaufman, because we are now scaling our business. So that's a great book. And if you allow me, I would like to suggest another one, as
Please.
we were discussing in our talk. I think the culture and creating big teams and strong teams is really important. So I think that every founder needs to read the Culture Code. That's another great book.
Mm-hmm. Do you actually still read books, or you listen to them?
I still read books.
Wonderful.
I try to read at least 1 or 2 books per month.
Wow, that's a high goal.
Yeah,
besides all of that. The fourth question on my checklist would be, what are your company values?
Well, of course, we have several values in our company. I don't want to get bored to anyone listening to the podcast, but I like to say that we are good people and outliers, in that order. I think that's a good phrase that sums up all the company values. You need to be a good people, and you need to be outlier. That's what we are looking for in our team.
As you mentioned that before when we were talking about hiring, maybe you can go into detail of how do you define a good person and how do you define an outlier? What do these two words mean to you?
Well, good people is just try to spend time with the people during the hiring process, not only ask questions about their careers or the schools they went, but also focus on what's their daily life, what's their family about, how, if they had any situation, if they helped them, what did they do. Focus on the personal life. Also ask them, see if they will fit in the culture of your organization. And from an outlier perspective, I think that past activities are a good predictor of what's going to happen in the future. So you can focus there on their past experience, and if they don't have much of the experience, just try to use your instinct. I mean, that's really hard to define when you're a startup. You need to trust your feelings.
What word, quote, or phrase would describe you?
I like a phrase that's there's an old say that ships is safe in harbor, but that's not what ships are built for. I mean, I like that phrase, and I think that it defines me a little bit. It would be a safe harbor to stay at the KPMG job, but I think that's not what I came to this world for.
And talking about, going out into the big ocean, leaving your comfort zone, if you want to use that. You are definitely a hero to us and to many other people, at least to 500,000, obviously. Who is a hero of yours?
Well, that's a tough question, because we can have a bunch of heroes in different aspects, but in terms of education, I think that the teachers are great heroes that I admire a lot, that they spend a lot of time face-to-face with students, trying to prepare the people that are going to rule the world, let's say, in the future. There will be our students working. So I think the teachers are the great heroes of our society.
So thank you so much for taking the time, as I said, especially amidst all the inflow you get right now, and how you're supporting the whole chaos that is going on right now, and really supporting the educational system in Latin America. So thank you for that service to society, to building the future generation, to helping out the teachers. Thank you so much. And I can just thank you for your time. Thank you for the wisdom you shared. Thank you for all your honest answers. I'm sure everyone listening to this will appreciate it. Thank you so much, Federico.
Thank you, and good luck to everyone.
Thank you for listening to our hero's journey, and subscribe now for more stories on Seedstars podcast.